The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, Custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a terrific author based out of Long Island, New York. He's got a book called Into the Rabbit Hole, and he's got a very, very interesting lineage where his dad and his grandfather were producers at CBS News, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And he's also got some books in the works as well, too, and his career in writing, and talk more about the book Into the Rabbit Hole and a lot of other things. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in Long Island, ladies and gentlemen, author of the Into the Rabbit Hole, Micah Dank. Micah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, no problem.
Great. Okay, so you've got a book called Into the Rabbit Hole, which is out on Amazon and other books as well. Your dad and grandfather were producers of CBS News, and you also, were an actor in high school, and you got involved in some English as well, too. And before we get into all that, tell us how you first got started.
Well, like I was telling you, my grandfather and my father were both they were both copy editors / producers. My grandfather was actually the person so Dan Rather, the reason he got famous is because he had the Kennedy story an hour before anyone. In Dan Rather's book, the person who he called into to tell CBS News the news that Kennedy had been killed was my grandfather, and he names him in his book.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. So writing has always been in me. You know, like I said, I was an actor in high school and early college. And what I did was I went to a prestigious acting school. I went to the American Academy in Manhattan for about 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. And then I tried it a little bit, but then college came around, and I decided, all right, let me become an English major. It'll help me really understand scripts better. It'll help me work on my writing, this, that, and the other thing. So that's what I basically transmitted into. And then I didn't really do much with it. I kind of went into logistics for a little while. And then I got interested in astrology. and astrotheology, which is basically the mythology around the planets, the sun, the stars. And I realized that I had to write a book on this. I was just drawn to writing a book on it. At first, I wanted to write a nonfiction book, but then I realized that if I write a fiction book, it could with the nonfiction information in it, much like 1984 or Brave New World, things of that nature, you could kind of reach a greater audience with the information in there. So that's what I basically did. The Into the Rabbit Hole that you mentioned just before is the title for my whole series, but it's actually a 6-book series.
Oh, really?
The first one is called Into the Rabbit Hole Beneath the Veil.
Okay.
And then I have 5 other ones that I've already finished writing. I just have to edit and make sure that they're okay. My publisher is releasing one every 3 months for the next 18 months. In fact, the first one's getting released June 30th. And then it's going to be every 3 months after that. So there's a lot of work to be done. But everything looks good so far. There's a pretty big following for it so far.
And what was that one moment that precisely influenced you into writing today? What was that one moment that says to you that I'll be doing this for the rest of my life?
There was a podcast. Or it wasn't a podcast, I apologize. It was a YouTube video of a lecture given by someone named Jordan Maxwell. And he made the point, he was talking about in the Bible, when they were talking about the apostles asked Jesus where they can meet him for Passover. And he says, go into town, you'll see a man with a water pitcher, follow him to his home. And that could be taken at surface level too, but if you dig deeper, the astrological meaning to that is the man with the water pitcher is Aquarius, because that's what the sign is, literally a man with a water pitcher. And there are 12 houses in the zodiac. Each sign has its own house. So you go find Aquarius, and then you meet him in his house. So when I heard that, I became hooked, and I wanted to understand all the hidden astrology in the Bible and the Gnostic texts. So I spent like a good few years just studying it and researching it, and then I realized this is what I have to do, is I want to get these stories out about all the hidden meanings that you find in these texts.
And how'd you first get interested in astronomy, astrology, and also astrotheology? How'd you first get interested in those?
At that moment, when I saw that video, I realized this is what was missing, and some of the things made so much sense to me, and I started studying it. And astrology, it's funny because it's like a language. It really is. And if you understand the meanings behind the signs and what they represent, it's a language that you can then use as a key to unlock other things. So what I basically did was, it's like J.P. Morgan said. He said millionaires don't need astrology, but billionaires do. So I just became hooked in it, and I realized that that's what I had to do, was write about this kind of stuff.
And do you think Into the Rabbit Hole, some people think of it as Alice in Wonderland. How similar do you think that would be to Alice in Wonderland, or is it totally different?
Well, Into the Rabbit Hole is kind of like a phrase it's been borrowed from Alice in Wonderland for sure. And it's kind of like that because I do talk a lot about conspiracies also, and things that have been hidden from human understanding. And I bring that out, and it is basically like a chase in the rabbit hole, because basically my characters, they just embark on these adventures that just digs them deeper and deeper into society and into the elites and everything that goes on supposedly behind the scenes. And I thought it was an appropriate title too, because it has very much a lot to do with, chasing conspiracies and trying to find out what's true and what's not.
And we'll talk more about the book Into the Rabbit Hole in just a minute. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, over 25 podcast platforms. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with author Micah Dank of Into the Rabbit Hole here on The Mike Wagner Show, where his dad and grandfather were producers at CBS News, and his grandfather was the one that broke the Kennedy assassination story back in 1963. And let's talk more about Into the Rabbit Hole, and tell us more about it, and again, the inspiration behind Into the Rabbit Hole.
Okay, sure. Well, basically, it's been compared to Dan Brown a lot in how he writes, and he's been a huge influence to me as far as his writing, as far as his cryptograms, his anagrams, his chasing puzzles. I do that too. The only difference between my books and his books are that my characters are much younger and they're much more sarcastic. So it's very there's like an immature level to it as well, which will make for good reading because there's a lot of jokes in it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot going on. Like Dan Brown, like everything I write about is based on reality that is present in our world that practically nobody knows about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it basically Into the Rabbit Hole is to me. It's bringing light information that people just haven't been taught.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what are some examples of, Into the Rabbit Hole, like about stumbling across a puzzling communication from his deceased Navy SEAL brother, and of course, 12,000 Years Human History, and also his quirky Mensa best friend and Atlac best girlfriend. I mean, just all the things just come into play, and you can just tell us a little about that, and how do things just intertwine, and some examples like you talked about astronomy, and also astrotheology.
Right. So basically, what I did was when I first wrote the characters, I wrote Graham and I wrote his girlfriend Hannah first, and then I realized I needed somebody who had a psychology background because there was a lot of psychology within the story. So I wrote this character Rosette in the later book. I write in a quantum physicist, a physics TA, because that comes into play as well, too. I write in a MIT graduate student of computer programming, because that comes into play, too. So all my characters basically have these roles to play within it. Mm-hmm. And basically, the first one, so there's a secret code within the Bible that people need to know about. And in the first book, you meet Graham, who's a Harvard medical student. And he has a Navy SEAL brother. And right away we find out that his Navy SEAL brother was killed. So he's called to Washington, D.C. to receive a medal from the president, a posthumous medal. So on his way there, he finds a cryptic email from his brother that he had missed in his email box. He opens it up, and it's a complete nonsensical email. It makes no real sense. It's just very grandiose. And such, and then basically what they end up finding out is his best friend, who's in Mensa, and who's a conspiracy theorist across the board, finds out that the letter that his brother sent him cryptically is a cryptogram that they have to decode, and as they decode it, it goes higher and higher up the chain to the president, to information from 12,000 years of history, to hidden information that is in plain sight that nobody knows about, and it just weaves everything together.
Mm-hmm. And also, what are some examples of the cryptogram as well, too?
Well, I'll give you an example of one of the things that I throw in there. Everybody knows George Washington is the first president, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, we became a country in 1776.
Mm-hmm.
He was a president from 1789. So who was running things for 13 years?
Washington.
Washington was 1789.
Okay.
But we became a country in 1776. So it goes into basically what was happening there. And as far as the cryptogram goes, there's a lot of anagrams within it. There's just some wordplay in it. But the book basically talks about MK Ultra, which is a mind control programming thing that the government put on. And it just basically, it allows people to, if they follow the regimen that this is you basically can create a split personality that the other one's not aware of and get them to do things, and they'd have no memory of it. So that's what they end up figuring out that his letter is mostly about. I don't want to give too much away, of course.
Right.
But,
we understand.
Right. But that's a big part of it. Is it basically explains that.
Mm-hmm. And also you talked about the mind control as well, too. And do you think what's being described in society today, or how close to it?
So my writings are incredibly border crossing in the sense that from the pre-reads that I've gotten so far, everybody's saying is that this is a fiction book, but it doesn't feel like it's fiction. Mm-hmm. And my stories very much cross that line, where there's a lot of tropes that come into daily play that are in my book, and then there's some things that are clearly fiction. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it has to do with real things. So it's just a slight variation of what our universe is going through.
Right, exactly. And what would you like readers to take away from reading your book?
I mean, some of them are going to read it and they're going to enjoy the story. And they're going to like the story because I build on it through each book. Like I said, in Dan Brown's book, the stories are non-sequential. My stories are sequential. They follow a long story that comes to an end. But what I like them to do is either be entertained or be willing to open up Google and start researching some of the claims that I make.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the claims as well, too? Because I'm sure you're getting some people that are interested, look up the claims and say, what's he talking about? What's he got to claim? What's he got to say?
Right. Well, without giving too much away, the MK Ultra thing is one of them. The president's thing is another one. There's one that I talk about Coca-Cola. There's one where I link cocaine use to the Vatican. Things of that nature. I know it's not really of that nature because they're not related, but it's things of that nature that people could easily just Google and learn something new about it. Stuff that's not really talked about in mainstream media or just in general. There's a lot of hidden information.
Mm-hmm. And also, how many secret societies come into play as well, too? You hear about these secret societies, hear about the Illuminati, capstones of the pyramids, and channelers, and a lot more. How much of that all comes into play in this book?
The Illuminati just gets touched on in book one, but it becomes more prevalent as the books come along. The Illuminati is not just it's not just a secret society like Skull and Bones. It's kind of like an overlord title. It's all encompassing. For things like the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucians and just things of that nature, these secret religious sects. It's just an overarching thing. The Jesuits come into play as well. And it's hard for me not to give anything away, so I'm trying not to. But there's a big reveal about the Jesuits in my book that the character figures out that really applies to this day and age, what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And as far as the other things that you mentioned too, those come on in later books.
Okay. And will that be in like the next book? Will that be like in book 3, book 4, book 5, as you talk about?
In book 2, the characters figure out that there are, I don't know if you've ever heard of the capstones of the pyramids. The pyramids in Giza supposedly had capstones that no one could figure out where they were or what they do. Mm-hmm. And my characters find out that it's spread all over the world. The 3 of them are spread all over the world, and they have to go on these basically treasure hunts to locate these things and replace them and put it back, and that it reveals what its true nature was.
Oh, wow. This almost sounds like a game in a sense.
It is. It's very, like I said, it's very Dan Brownish.
It is amazing as well, too. We'll talk about what's coming up for you as well, too, along with a little bit more about Into the Rabbit Hole. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. It's powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with author Micah Dank of Into the Rabbit Hole here on the Mike Wagner Show, and let's talk a little bit more about Into the Rabbit Hole and just one more thing here. And what did you learn while writing the book?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I wrote papers in college, and I always kind of had this like unique perspective on things.
Mm-hmm.
I always connect things that don't always need to be connected. I find a way to like make them synchronized. And I found out in this book series that basically I was able to transmit all this information that I had studied and I had learned over the course of 7-8 years into a 6-book series. Like all the information is basically like leaving a diary in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically how I feel about my stories.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And also it's basically an electrifying hunt for what's real, what's possible, what it means to survive, and more. And that's just something that could apply in today's society, especially with all the news going on.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, the books really, really teeter the line between reality and fiction.
Mm-hmm.
When you read these books, you're going to realize that a lot of the stuff applies to nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it, like their environment and their world that surrounds them.
Mm-hmm. And also, too, while you're writing this book, was anything about the coronavirus or the pandemic ever mentioned in the book?
Interesting. Well, I didn't get to book 3 yet, but in book 4, basically, in book 4, there is a evil secret sect that has gained control of the vaccine program.
Uh-huh.
They found a way to infect a protein in the vaccine that causes people to take their own life. It causes incredible doom in themselves, and they just can't beat it. And so what happens is it spreads, and there's an incubation period, so no one can figure where it comes from. And basically, this vaccine, when it's injected in someone, after a few days, you just get this overwhelming fear of dread and doom, and you have to and they take their lives. And they have to figure out where this is coming from and why it's affecting certain people. And it's probably my proudest book because I wrote it maybe about a year and a half before coronavirus.
Oh, wow.
But it's very prevalent to this.
Mm.
Like as far as what people are thinking, as far as like Bill Gates and his vaccines. I'm sure you've seen the memes and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also, do you think with the vaccine, do you think Bill Gates has this all down where everybody takes a vaccine and, it's going to happen just like as you mentioned, or do you think it'll be the opposite?
There's going to be a lot of resistance.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of resistance to this vaccine. I mean, he's on record saying that he made more money than he could ever imagine by switching from computers to vaccines.
Wow.
He's also on record on a TED Talk of saying that if we do a really good job with vaccines, we could possibly lower the population by 15%.
I've heard something about that.
Right. So that quote gave me reason to write the 4th book. So basically my 4th book is basically about that.
Okay. We'll let you give too much away the books as well, too. And when can we expect the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th books? And so, if you want, 5 and 6.
So, yeah, the first book is coming out June 30th. And it'll be on Amazon. It'll be on Apple. It'll be across the U.S. My publisher's releasing it everywhere. Barnes & Noble. Also, I have a website, micahdank.com. You can go on it and pre-order it there. But the thing is that I also have at the bottom of my website, I have a section where you could send me a message and it goes to my email and I can reply to you if you have any questions about it or just in general. I have an interactive website like that. But basically, the books are coming out every 3 months. I have 6 books coming out in 18 months. The first one is June 30th. The second's in September. The third's going to be a Christmas book.
Wow.
And it's going to be 3 months after that. And if you when you buy a paperback version of my book, the last page of it gives you a link to my publisher's website. And if you go on my publisher's website and you pre-order the second, third, or fourth book, whatever, you'll get $2 off the book. And I really fought to keep the pricing low on this, so the first book's only $12.95, and the second book, it would be $2 off, and then so on and so forth. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's going to be every 2 months. 3 months. I'm sorry.
That is amazing. I mean, 6 books like that. I don't know if Stephen King or J.K. Rowling would crank them out in that time frame. It's like, that is just amazing what you're doing with those 3 months. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also, too, besides those 6 books you're going to crank out within the 18 months, what else can we expect from you from 2020 and beyond?
I'm toying with the idea, depending on how these books go, of adding a 7th book. I've already started to outline. Right now, it's going to be a 6-book series. But I've already started to outline how to continue it, if need be. Also, I'm thinking of writing a kids' astrology book. I was thinking of toying with that. And my friends and we wanted to put a book together that details all of, like, the dumb stuff that we did growing up.
Uh-huh.
So in like, short stories, like a book of short stories of all the stuff that we did growing up. So I might do that too, but I have a lot coming along. But I know, look, for the people who have read this book so far, like the pre-testers or whatever, I've not gotten a bad reply. I've not gotten anybody say anything negative about it. So I'm actually really looking forward to this release.
It sounds like it too. We're looking forward to what you have as well too. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Dan Brown for sure. I like Paul Auster. He wrote a book called The New York Trilogy, and I really like the character's mental illness in that book, and I kind of incorporated it a little bit into my book. As the books go on, you'll see a character with mental illness that comes out, and he can't really trust what's going on in his or her head.
Mm-hmm.
And basically those two. I mean, I would just watch, like, Dan Brown movies and just get hyped and think that these books are coming out. It's going to be the next big thing, that sort of thing. I kind of embellish a little bit, but he's had a huge influence on me.
That is amazing, too. And also, what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
In regards to?
Writing or just anything in general.
All right, well, my first book that's being released June 30th, I actually finished it in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me, I got rejected from agents, and then finally I landed one. And then I got rejected from publishing houses until I finally landed one. I used to work in, are you familiar with Manhattan at all?
I've got friends that live over there that tell me all kinds of stories thanks to social media, and they've given me some stories about that.
Okay, well, I used to work at a place in Manhattan, right near the Flatron district, right near the Flatron building in Chelsea,
mm-hmm.
and it's like the lower 20s. You
right.
know, it's not far from Penn Station. And they had a little vendor, and there was a little picture. It was like a little framed thing, and it was Leonardo DiCaprio holding an Oscar.
Oh my gosh!
And there's a thing next to it. There's a phrase next to it in red that says "Never, never give up." So when I was working or when I was at home or whatever, I would take that everywhere and I would just put it up there and I would just look at it after every rejection. I've saved all my rejection letters from everybody, and I just kept it. You just have to keep going. If your story is unique and original, and you think that it needs to be out there, then you're the only one who can stop it from being out there.
Mm-hmm. And that's very true as well, too. That's just amazing. Once again, author Micah Dank of Into the Rabbit Hole here on the Mike Wagner Show. Micah, big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Look forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase your books?
You got it. So June 30th, you can go on Amazon and look up my name, Micah T. Dank, or you can just Google Into the Rabbit Hole. Amazon Into the Rabbit Hole. It's going to be released throughout the world. And you can go to my website. If you have any questions directly, you can send it to me. There's a section at the bottom of my website. You can follow me at Twitter at Real Mr. Dank. I'm on Facebook too. You can reach out to me anywhere. But that's pretty much it. I don't have an Instagram for now. Actually, I don't. But
well, don't feel bad as well too. Once again, Micah, big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. Love you back on in 2020 and beyond. You've been great.
Thank you.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, Custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.